Hi everyone. Today is our first ever Education on Air conference, and we're actually holding 46 Hangouts on Air with leading discussions on a number of topics in education technology. So first I wanted to thank all of the presenters for giving their time to this, and for all of you who are watching. All of our presenters have early access to Hangouts on Air, a technology that allows you to broadcast and record Hangouts. To watch any of the sessions today, simply go to the presenters' Google Plus page at the appointed time. And you can find actually a list of all the sessions and links to presenters' Google Plus pages on the conference website, which is sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. And that's sites.google.com/site/EduOnAir. So now let's just get started with introducing Kelly Mendoza from Common Sense Media. She's going to be our moderator for today. Kelly manages the Professional Development Program for Common Sense Media's education programs. She develops online professional development tools, videos, and trains educators on digital literacy and citizenship. Kelly has also written curriculum for Common Sense, his K-12 digital literacy and citizenship program. So without further ado, Kelly, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? Just making sure. Great. I'm so glad to be here in this session on Google's first conference, on-air education conference on digital literacy and citizenship. And I'm really excited, especially with this group of educators that we have here, to talk about this important topic. Just a little bit about, before we jump in, about Common Sense Media. I'll be moderating the session. But Common Sense, we're a nonprofit based in San Francisco, and we aim to improve the lives of children and families in a world of digital media. So one of the things that we do is we have a comprehensive K-12 digital literacy and citizenship curriculum available at no cost to educators. And we do a lot of work in this space of digital citizenship, digital literacy. And just quickly, I want to show you our website in case you're new to us. So let me do that, and then we'll dive into the session, which I'm really excited about. Okay. So let me show you. This is our website. It's commonsensemedia.org. And you can go in into the educators section and see all of our education programs, including the K-12 curriculum, which you can access at no cost. You just have to register as an educator on our website. So I encourage you to do that if you haven't already, and check out the resources that we offer. So let me get out of that. I also want to mention that #during this session we have hashtags going. The hashtag for this session is DigCit. So it's hashtag DIGCIT. That's right. Okay. All right, so I'm looking forward to having this great group of educators here to talk about digital citizenship. So I'm first going to introduce them, and then I'll kind of, and then they can wave, and they'll do more introduction of themselves. But then just give you a little introduction of digital literacy and citizenship, and then sort of launch the discussion. So on our left here, we have Bob Sprankle, who is a technology integrator at Wells Elementary School in Wells, Maine. Hello, Bob. Nice to have you here. In the middle, we have Elizabeth Calhoun. She's an assistant principal at Stone Valley Middle School in Alamo, California. Hello, hello.
Hi.
And we have Joe Taylor, District Instructional Technology Coordinator at Township High School, District 14 in Arlington Heights, Illinois.
Hi.
And hello. And what's great about this session, what I'm really excited about, is we have representatives, we have educators, we have administrator represented, we have elementary, middle, and high school. So we're going to get a really good discussion going on, K-12 digital literacy and citizenship. And I also realized that we have representatives at different areas of the United States. We have West Coast, East Coast, and in the middle. So we're all covered here. So just before we get started into discussion, You may have heard of the terms or be familiar with the terms already, but I kind of want to just introduce what is digital literacy, what is digital citizenship. Digital literacy, to common sense at least, is really about being able to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and communicate with digital media. It's kind of the how-to, understanding how to use the tools and how to participate using the tools. But digital citizenship is more about ethics and the behavioral aspect. It's how kids are safe, how they're responsible online, how they treat others, how they participate in an online community as a citizen, and how they help build a positive online community. And so you can imagine one is more about learning the tools and how to use them, and the other is about how to participate responsibly. And so those two things go together. They essentially go together as a 21st century skill that kids need to learn, and that's why this is so important. So on that note, I'm going to start off by having, and I'll call on each panelist to sort of introduce, describe what kind of work you're doing at your school or in your district around digital literacy and citizenship, and then you can also add, if you have anything to add to what it is, what are the core skills that students need to learn or that your students are learning. So I think I'll start with Bob on that question. Just tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here, and this is great. This whole education hangout has been amazing. I've been watching for a couple hours. So I'm at the elementary level. My name is my title is a technology integrator, but I really am in a computer lab with K-4 students all day. So we haven't really hit that mark where I'm integrating in the classroom with teachers, and hopefully someday we'll get there. But I agree with everything you just said about what digital literacy is and digital citizenship, and that it's just so important. And I think one of the big things is our classrooms have to mirror what's happening out in the real world. So if we're not using the same tools that are engaging our students, we're kind of leaving them behind and on their own. And so I think a lot of what I do is bringing that in to a place where they can practice with me, with guidance, make mistakes in a safe environment, almost like a walled garden. And I can talk about that later, where certain things have happened in chat rooms, but we've been safe in there, and thank goodness it happened there, and they learned before they went out and really did that in their digital footprint for their life. So my curriculum is based mostly on the National Educational Technology Standards from ISTES, and basic technology operations, and then again social ethical and digital citizenship. Creativity and innovation is huge. I think as students learn how to make the media, they then can control and understand the media and also understand how it controls them. And communication and collaboration is a big piece of that, as well as critical thinking, probably the biggest part of it. So I'll talk about, if you want to hear later, how I sort of start where I want my fourth graders stand up with that critical thinking piece and bring it down to my kindergarten with the curriculum.
That's great. Actually, Elizabeth, you want to go next?
Sure. So to give you a little bit of background, my background is actually as a high school English teacher, and I've been an administrator both at the high school and now this is my first year at the middle school level, partially so that I can address some of these digital citizenship and literacy issues at a younger age. And specifically, so my wealth of experience really comes more from what I was doing in the classroom and integrating into my English language arts classroom. And now I'm seeing really the discipline side of it and the impact that some of the really hot button issues around digital citizenship and cyberbullying, where that kind of behavior manifests itself, and how a school, how we are working our way through looking at different policies, looking at different practices, and finding something that works best for us. We have our district framework for excellence, which is great, and it's a really good guideline, and I can show you that later, for us philosophically. But then how it manifests itself at the site level, as we all know, is very different. And so what does that mean for us in terms of character education, and then how does that then bleed into the classrooms and students' feelings of responsibility, and feelings of responsibility to other people, not just themselves, and those pieces of citizenship. So you know, we're integrating lots of social media into our school, but then along with that, it's incumbent that we also have a great deal of education that goes along with that. So where's that balance, and who's in charge of it? So that's where we are right now. You want to go, Joe?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to jump in. Let me give you a little bit of background on our district before telling you about what we're doing in class. We're 35 miles northwest of Chicago, and we have, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. We're 35 miles northwest of Chicago, and we have a 6 high school district. In each one of our high schools, we have about 2,000 kids, about 140 teachers. Arlington Heights is a fairly affluent area, but our demographics are all over the place, especially in the last 10 years. We've seen that we have, even in what we used to consider our affluent neighborhoods, we have very high socioeconomic achievers, and then we have a lot of challenges. And we have a great deal of ESL students in our community, and it's not just Hispanic, but also a good number of Eastern Europeans. For the last several years, I have been the academic technology coordinator. I think most people in the world call it an instructional technology coordinator, where it is my job to integrate technology into the classroom. And so everything that I heard from our previous speakers is happening at our high school too, with regards to using the NET standard for digital literacy and digital citizenship. We're trying to do that across the curriculum, though, in each one of our classes.
Great. I'm glad I'm back. Thanks for sharing. So I missed some of what you said, but I'm assuming it's wonderful. You're all doing wonderful work. And so one of the first questions, now we get a sense of what you're doing, one of the first questions that I want to start with is just some of the successes that you've had in teaching and integrating digital citizenship. Give an example, specific examples of what you're doing. So let's start with the successes before we go to the issues and the problems. Let's go ahead again and start with Bob. Bob?
Okay, sure. I mentioned earlier I like to look at my curriculum where I want my 4th graders to end up and then bring that down to the Ks to build each skill. So by the end of 4th grade, I really want my students to be able to sit down at any computer, any operating system, and at least start to be able to figure it out on their own. So this is a lot of independent thinking skills that we've got to work on. And I used to have kids show up and just kind of fold their arms at a black screen, and I'd walk along and I'd say, "What's up?" And they'd say, "I don't know, it's not working." And they wouldn't try the mouse or try this or anything. So what I really try to talk about is this is a place to make mistakes. You can't break these machines. Try anything. Get up to another computer, things like that. That real independent thinking and critical thinking. I try to always talk about how that's going to impact the unknown futures that they're going to have, the unknown jobs, but what we kind of guess how they're going to work with different people from all around the world with different projects and things like that. So I use Scratch in the 4th grade as our culminating project. Scratch, if you don't know, comes out of MIT with Mitch Resnick and his lifelong kindergarten group. And it is just an outstanding way to achieve all the standards that I'm trying to get across. First off, it's a social networking site because people publish their projects there. When they publish their projects there, you can download them and reverse engineer them. So they're getting that experience of working with other people, open source community, sharing knowledge, things like that. It's programming, so again, they're controlling the media and understanding parts of the media and how to get a message across. Our fourth graders, when they do Scratch, they're responsible for teaching the community about what we call our core values in our district: honesty, trustworthiness, respect, compassion, and I'm leaving one more out. There's another one, but so they do that. They're using that to communicate it. And prior to that, then they've worked in GarageBand with public service announcements about our health initiative. And then in second grade, they're making movies that are educating everybody about our Kelso strategies, which is sort of like our core values at a younger age. So that's a lot of where I want them to end up. Before I came into the lab, I was in the classroom for about 10 years, and I was fortunate enough to have the only internet connection back in 1997, little dial-up with the phone cord running 2 miles down to the principal's office because that was the only phone in those days. So I've been bringing them online and having them publish their work right from the beginning, and I think that's been what has really shown me this is why this is so engaging for students, publishing their work, having that presence online, and doing something that's authentic. So when we started blogging later with my Multi 3.4, it was a quick bump to go to say, would you like to turn this into a podcast? And so my students in Room 208 were one of the first classes to use podcasting, and it turned into a job. Instead of them thinking of it as school, it turned into them writing sort of a magazine approach radio show, and day in and day out they thought they were getting away with something. They said it doesn't feel like we're going to school, and they were working harder than I'd ever seen them work, and their writing went up and their fluency skills went up, and again, it was just that real purpose and engagement that happened.
Great, thank you so much. Those are some great examples, and I'm hoping that people listening can take some of those back and try them out. And also, you mentioned you're touching on sort of reading, writing, literacy skills overall. So as you're listening, you can start thinking about, I know, and if you all can speak to this at some point, Common Core is a big issue, and kind of how digital citizenship fits into the Common Core. And I think you started touching on some of that. So Elizabeth, let's hear successes. What's going on at your school? What's working?
Sure, great. I kind of want to give a little bit of background to what I initially started doing in my classrooms and how that's evolved into what I'm doing now. Initially starting as a teacher, I was using the program Turnitin, and I was able to get a whole bunch of resources and lesson plans that were related to students avoiding plagiarism rather than getting caught at plagiarism. And so I found my students to be incredibly engaged with this conversation about, okay, I don't want to catch you cheating. I want to inform you on what plagiarism is. And what that evolved into was having more conversations about being preventative. So that evolved, again, into using some lessons from Common Sense Media's website, as well as jumping into social media myself, so that I could really wrap my mind around what students were dealing with and working with on a daily basis. And so then my jumping into social media ultimately ended up I would have conversations with students, and those conversations we would start talking about sharing resources, and sharing resources became collaboration, which led to responsibility and citizenship. So it was very cyclical in that way. And then when I came to be an assistant principal, and started really delving into broader ideas and bigger picture kinds of things. We've been doing a lot of really great work with our counselor and developing a culture committee, basically, where a significant portion of that is digital citizenship and looking at informing not just our students but also our parent community and giving everybody as much information as we can and creating a strategic plan. Currently, our school has a Facebook, a Google+, and a Twitter account, and so it's incumbent, like I was saying earlier, it's incumbent upon us to integrate that digital citizenship piece into making these resources available and making sure that we've got the manpower to monitor what's going on as well. I mean, those are all the very real issues that we are working through right now, and I think we're being successful because the conversations are open and they're free-flowing, and between our counselor and our administrative team and our teachers and our students about what do we want to see in a digital citizenship program. District-wide, we had Common Sense Media come in and give some presentations not just to our middle school groups, but also to all of our administrative team and our parent groups at night. They were invited to a couple different nights to come and hear what Common Sense was offering, as well as we had some student speakers who talked about digital citizenship. So on a broad scale, the district has been doing a lot of work, and then how it's manifesting itself at our site is through our culture committee and what the teachers are doing and having those open lines of communication and constantly checking in on individual students.
Great, thanks so much for sharing that. It's sort of helpful because we started with sort of a hands-on classroom view and then went to this sort of bird's eye view of how it really does take cooperation, people working together to make this happen. And if you're a lone teacher out there or educator or administrator feeling like you're doing this alone, just remember there are people doing this. There's a community available for you. So I definitely want to encourage you to seek out others who are doing great work here. So Joe, this brings us to you. What are the great things going on in your school and in your district? What have you found works? What are the
Well, let me start by saying that you know, I think that we're all here because we recognize that we have a moral responsibility to teach digital citizenship and literacy to our students, but we are also here because we have a legal responsibility. I mentioned before that I'm from the state of Illinois, and God, I hope none of our state legislators are online here, but I'm about to say that we're all very surprised when the state of Illinois passes some piece of legislation that's beneficial for schools. And in 2008, when they passed the law requiring schools to teach internet safety at every single level, we were very excited. It was something that they even preceded the federal legislation, the amendment to the SEPA Act. And we looked at that, and we thought that both the federal government and the state of Illinois were asking us not to teach internet safety as a one-off, but to include it in our curriculum. And so we took this route. We thought that one aspect of teaching digital literacy and citizenship is building the capacity in our staff to do so. So perhaps the greatest success that we've had is developing an integrated curriculum, creating a culture where the teachers feel supported and they're excited about using Web 2.0 technologies in their classroom. So rather than approaching the topic from the standpoint of, okay, how do we teach internet safety in the classroom, we've been approaching the topic by saying, teachers, as curriculum experts, what is it that you'd really like to do in your classroom, and how does technology fit into or enhance that plan? What skills do your students need in order to accomplish those goals? And so I wanted to mention two different programs that we have, one that I think fits into there very well and also illustrates a point. When we started talking about how we're going to teach these skills in classrooms, I don't think any of us considered that we were going to have really great opportunities in all kinds of classes. So one of our art classes is photo. So it's an elective that they can take for a semester. They actually can take photography or advanced photography. There's an AP photography, as a matter of fact. And in the past, what they used to do is they would take their pictures and then they would post them in the classroom, and they'd walk around the classroom and they would write comments on the pictures about, what they see, what could be better, what's the message, etc. Our photo teacher said, you know what, we really need to use the classroom time for teaching the kids how to take the pictures, and then going out and finding the subjects to take pictures. And then we're going to extend the classroom by posting the photos online and having the kids comment online. So they developed a Flickr account, and then they developed a private group on Flickr where they can post their pictures and every student can comment. And so a little bit, in one way, they flipped the classroom. And in classroom, it's basically the teacher working with the students as they create their photographs. And then at the very beginning of the year, she teaches them the skills necessary of how to create a private group in Flickr, how to communicate with each other in Flickr, how they're going to be graded, what's expected of them. So that, to me, was an unexpected consequence of trying to embed it throughout the curriculum. It's not just a matter of saying in our info processing classes or our computer classes, this is the way you behave online. It is the way we enhance every single classroom we have. If I can, one other lesson that I wanted to talk about is sort of different, and that is always in the past, I think that most of our administrators said, we want to keep some of our social networking. You'll probably hear this from teachers too, teachers and administrators as well. Social networking is a distraction, so we want to keep it out of the classroom as much as possible. You'll hear people say, Facebook, there's no good that can come of that. Well, that's actually not true. And when we approach school in that way, what we do is we bring our kids into an environment that's foreign to them. When they leave our school, they're always connected to Facebook, they're always connected to Twitter, they're online, or at least it's true for us. And so when we bring them into school and we say no Facebook, no social networking, whatever, what we're really doing is burying our heads in the sand. So what we did is we took our freshman advisory course. It's a half-hour course where we were teaching them how to be good citizens anyway, and we've just embedded some of the online aspects into that classroom. So now, rather than keeping Facebook out of the classroom, we specifically bring it into our advisory classroom, and we show the students, we walk through with them how to set their security settings so that not everything is public. And my settings are set like this. What happens if they're set like this? Who can see what? We teach them how to use groups. So in other words, we're teaching them how to use Facebook so that they can manage their own digital footprint as opposed to just expecting that they're going to go home and do it on their own.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing all that, especially all of the different elements. We have digital literacy stuff you were talking about with photography and, learning the skills, and then weaving in digital citizenship. And I liked how you talked about integrating into the curriculum rather than a standalone. We've found also that that's actually working better than a standalone, but you know what, for some schools it is the standalone, and that's where digital citizenship lives. So I appreciate you sharing those examples. So the next question then, and since we're running a little bit short on time, I'm going to have you share one challenge that you've experienced and how you've dealt with that in terms of teaching, integrating digital literacy and citizenship. I'm actually going to start with Joe on this.
Okay. I think that one of the biggest challenges that we've faced is fear and misinformation. At least when we started talking to parents and teachers about integrating technology in the classroom and teaching digital citizenship and internet safety, what was the first thing that came to everyone's mind? It was to catch a predator, right? Because there are so many predators that are out there online, and the fact of the matter is that most of the data suggests that our kids do know how to handle unwanted advances online. There are examples of predation. There are examples of bad things that happen. You've all seen the movies. But for the most part, we can educate our kids. Our kids do know how to behave online with regards to predators. That's not the problem. For us, the biggest problem is cyberbullying. the way they talk to each other online, as opposed to worrying about some unwanted guy that's living in a shack contacting them on email. And so the way that we've been able to overcome this is to go straight to the data. And I was hoping that I was going to have for you guys today. I don't, but we had our state test last week, and we gave our freshmen a survey. The survey was on digital citizenship and their attitudes towards communicating with each other and what their fears are about predators, how many of them have been contacted by predators, etc. And I was hoping to include that information today, but we're something about scoring the state test taking precedence, so we won't be able to have that until next week or so. But what we have been able to do is contacted, have you guys all, I'm sure that everybody has heard the stat, 1 in 7 of our students have been contacted by a predator. That actually was developed by the CDCC, I think that's the right acronym, in New Hampshire, and the answer is yes, they have been, but frequently those contacts are coming from people their own age. So in other words, when they get unwanted communication, a lot of times that's coming from other teenagers. And once we start clearing up what the stats are out there, then we can move away from just the blind fear of, well, we just need to keep it out of our schools, and start focusing on what's the best way to use it in our classes, and how are our kids already using it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Joe, especially about the myths and the misinformation, and especially bringing parents into the loop to help educate everybody as a community. Elizabeth, one challenge and how you've dealt with it.
Well, I want to reiterate what Joe was saying about the cyberbullying piece and how students are treating each other is really much more central than to catch a predator, as you eloquently said. So I think part of the big struggle there is, especially at the middle school level, is they're just coming into their own and learning their own sense of independence and figuring out what they believe in. I mean, we know some adults that don't know who they are yet, and so to ask students when they're dealing with such a pervasive medium, it becomes much more important that the educators and the leaders on campus become integrated into the social media and understanding what the issues behind cyberbullying are and what the manipulation is, and the anonymity that is so much more pervasive and readily accessible, where you know, when we would write nasty notes to each other and we were kids, which of course I never did, but you give those to somebody else, even if you don't write your name on it, you know, somebody recognizes your handwriting, maybe. Well, I think with cyberbullying, one of the biggest challenges is making sure that education gets out there ASAP, immediately, yesterday, to the parents and to the educators and even the youngest of educators who weren't necessarily growing up with the same access to information. And so it's that push of education that is imperative that we take care of now. That's the biggest challenge, I believe.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. I know that you know, in digital citizenship, cyberbullying is one of the pain points, and we're figuring out how to deal with it, and then also how to build positive communities, positive school communities, and positive online communities. Okay, Bob, I know you've been doing this for quite a while. I'm sure you could write a book on the many, many challenges you face, but name one and how you've dealt with it.
Well, I'm jealous of Joe being so integrated when he talks about being able to bring this to every subject. We're getting there. It's going to take time, but I think that's the big problem, is there isn't time in the day for me to go and meet with teachers. Even if I were to remove myself from the lab they don't have time to meet with me to integrate it. We've done a little bit of it, and this year I was able to do some writing with the teachers in the 3rd grade, and then they came down to finish up the technology with me, and it was wonderful. But we know that the more integrated it is, everything works better being integrated instead of a standalone. And I think that's the biggest thing, is to stop seeing technology as a separate thing, but more as this is the tool that we need, that we use, that should be, you know, as natural as a pencil in our room, and not getting hung up on the tool, either the fear of it or the wow factor, but really meeting the purpose of what we're trying to do with the proper tool. And that may not be technology at all.
Hey, can I jump in for just a second?
Sure.
Before we move on, I want to make you just a little bit more jealous, but that it's not to brag. It's just to talk about how much I agree with everything that you just said about it not being about the device. It's not about the wow factor, but where are we getting that data, and how is it that I've been able to convince people to let me work with all of the teachers and our PLCs to integrate this into the course room or the classroom, is that we have a number of pilots in the district right now, technology initiative pilots, where I have teachers in several different curricular areas that are using one-to-one mobile devices in their classroom. It's about giving the kids access to the kind of things that they do outside of the classroom. So, you know, I think that there are probably a lot of high school people out there say don't have to worry about social networking because we block that at our schools, but I'm guessing that most of your kids have something like this, which means that you don't really block it at your schools. So most of them have some sort of access and knowledge, working knowledge of mobile devices. We decided, let's leverage that, put it in our classrooms, right? If that's the way that they're learning and creating, and that's the way that we expect that they're going to learn and create in the future, then let's build our classrooms around that, or figure out what it is that we want to send, or what message we want to send, and have them use those devices to create.
Great, thanks for sharing that. At this point, we have 5 minutes left. So Kat has sort of been seeing the conversation that's been going on, and I'm wondering, Kat, if there's any themes coming up in terms of a question or two, if we have time, that we could ask the panel from the audience.
Yeah, actually, John Brialt had 2 really good questions. I think, given that we know the importance of it, how do we actually measure in a quantitative way kind of measures of success? So in your classrooms, how are you gauging it through data points?
Well, I think one of the things that you have to start with is I mean, and this may seem trite, but a well-articulated, collaboratively created survey that you can use over time, because it is so new. New in the sense that, you know, the questions that we're asking aren't necessarily questions that have been asked in previous climate surveys or healthy kids surveys, or whatever it is that your particular community calls it. But I think you create a collaborative data set that parents have input, you know, all of the stakeholders have input, and then you move forward from there and give that same survey at particular times throughout the year or year after year. And that's where you start. But I think the other 2 gentlemen will probably have more information about what they've been actively doing.
Well, we're using student achievement data, and we do have a survey, just like you had mentioned, but we're using student achievement data as well. The biggest pilot that I have right now is our AP Economics pilot, where they've got iPads in the classroom. And we have gone from having 70 students in AP Econ to having 170 students in AP Econ over the last couple of years. And what we've seen is that the achievement has actually continued to increase. On the AP test last year, we actually saw a 2-point increase in the average. So being able to leverage these devices in class, it's not about engagement. It's about working with the students in the way that they are comfortable learning. They're not they don't have short attention spans. They just learn differently than we used to learn. The kind of static classroom that we used to learn in is not going to reach them. So student achievement data is one. The other one is we use a qualitative analysis. How much have we seen communication, for instance, increase between the students and the teacher? How much more creation do we see from the students? What sort of independent learning do we see from the students?
Great. Bob, what are you doing?
Well, I'm going to go off track for a second because I think some of what we're looking for, we may not see the results for years. In other words, take the technology piece out again. We're trying to build leaders who are critical thinkers, who are challenging their own thinking, the learning that's happening in the classroom. It's a completely different environment than what I grew up in because we have so much power and tools due to the internet and how that's changed the world. So I think about our students that went to middle school before MySpace. It was MySpace at that time. Was even thought of, was even imagined by the person who had my job, the tech integrator person. And you could completely see years later where they fell through the cracks. They didn't have the skills to make the right decisions and got in all kinds of trouble that we found out, through various sources. So as I'm starting with students younger now, we're going to see that they're going to be more responsible later and have that data to track that I may not have now. Certainly when I see students being able to get up and speak and present and know that the entire world may have access to their work, and so they're going to put their best effort into it, well, then we're able to really assess the best of the student because we've provided an authentic audience and theater for that to happen. So I think some of it is we're really going to see it down the line with this population, hopefully being strong leaders who are going to change the world in ways we can't even imagine.
Great. I'm so glad you ended on that positive note. Imagine a world where all of our kids are great digital citizens and we're building these positive, supportive online communities and using technologies in positive and beneficial ways. I think that's a wonderful sort of outlook to end this session on. Unfortunately, we could talk and talk. I just feel like we're just barely touching on this topic, but we do have to end our session today. So I want to thank Bob, Elizabeth, and Joe for joining us today. And next steps would be to continue the conversation on Google in Education page. And Kat's going to end and tell you where you can find the link, right, to view the session.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, everyone. Actually, the comments thread is right below your video on the Google in Education homepage. So if you just go to sites.google.com I believe that's site-edu-on-air, then you should be able to find all of the comments there, and the conversation is definitely still continuing. There's some really good questions around incentives. So thank you, all of you, for participating, and thank you to those who are viewing right now.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Really enjoyed it.